Hey, what's up guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video is our next update on the news, different things that are going on that should encourage you to prep. And if you didn't check out my video from yesterday where I talked about the exact numbers in pounds to store for a 1 month supply of one person, then I would highly consider checking that video out. I'll put a link to it in the description down below. I just broke down the simple numbers on rice, beans, and then I did rice, beans, oats, meat, and fruit. But the reason why I did a video like that was for the information that I'm going to tell you about in today's video. So if you find any of this information useful, then please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And if you have a friend or family member that hasn't heard what I'm talking about in today's video, then share the video with them. And with that all out of the way, let's get into it. The July inflation report saw inflation year over year rise to 5.4%. Now, at the government level, they thought by the end of this year it would only be at 5.3% year over year. So we're already passing up their expectations and not in a good way. This is coupled with, that's the average of the inflation on everything. But year over year for gas prices, we're up into, it was 41 or 42%, I don't remember the exact number. Food is up double digits in most categories. And the most recent rise that gave to this extra increase was energy consumption. We're kind of getting to the last bit of the hottest part of the year, and people still want to stay cool, so energy costs are going up as well. Just recently, our glorious president came out and was asking OPEC to increase their production on oil to help stave off some of the inflation in that category. But even if they were able to just open the floodgates right now, it's a trickle-down effect that we wouldn't see for several weeks, if not months. And couple that with the next thing. They recorded over 10 million job openings. We added something like 914,000 jobs in the month of July. Now, in a political game, some people argue that we weren't really adding jobs. They were just jobs coming back from when stuff shut down. We don't really know exactly what jobs are considered new jobs and what jobs are jobs going into the category of returning to normal levels. But what we do know is, reportedly in the month of April, 4 million people left their jobs, whether that's based on concerns over this virus or the extended unemployment benefits tied in with the extension on the eviction moratorium. From what I've been watching in podcasts for people that do a little bit more about the economic side of things, they're saying the average income that you're making on the unemployment with the bonus on top of the unemployment because of the virus, it's coming out to you're making roughly $16 an hour. Tie that in with not having to, or it not being a requirement to pay your rent, and you can kind of see why some people are hesitant to go back into work. There are rumors that this is part of what people are calling the Great Reset, because if my government's going to print out money and pay me $16 an hour to sit at home, then I do not want to return to a job where I'm not going to make at least $16 an hour. That being said, trying to stay as apolitical as possible, the U.S. government has spent a ton of money between their coronavirus relief effort and just spending in general Uh, Even under the Trump presidency, they didn't cut spending all that much, and most of what he was enacting has been, withdrawn in several categories. And just recently, this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill that I haven't read through everything on it yet, but we could have saved a decent amount of funds if we would have repaired stuff as it broke instead of kicking the can down the road and exacerbating the situation. Now, what all that has to do with prepping, the biggest thing is each of these little things tie into your $100 can only buy $95 worth of stuff compared to last year. You times that by your monthly income, and it probably goes up a little bit more. So if you're just getting into prepping, or you have set aside a budget and a plan for, I need this much ammo by X date, need this many mason jars and powdered milk by this date, then your plans are going to slow down. Not only that, but the amount of money that you're putting into prepping could be slowing down because you're paying 40% more on your gas to get to work, to take your kids to school, that sort of thing. And all of these things compound into the bottom dollar of you're getting 5% less for probably the same amount of money. If you've got a pay increase and it's was 5%, then you're really not making any extra money to put into preps or retirement, your day-to-day expenses. The next most recent update, which we haven't seen anything out of it yet because it only happened on Wednesday, I think it happened Wednesday evening, is China's shut down the third largest exporting port. Something like 15 or 20% of the port has been closed down because certain people were being tested positive for COVID, and they've already come out and said that this will be it'll create an increase in prices for Europe and North America. Essentially, I think they said something like 5 or 7% of the total exports that come to Europe and North America come out of this port, and they just shut down roughly 25% of the port. And they said the consumer on the other end will see the price increase. We don't know how long it'll stay shut down. We also know that they've shut other parts of ports down in the past, and there's no real time frame given onto when it'll open back up. And with the Delta variant spreading more and more, we have no idea how many more ports they'll shut down, to what capacity they'll still be receiving and sending goods. But couple that with the already extremely high inflation numbers in the United States, in the coming weeks and months, that will just be, more grains of sand in the bucket that will exacerbate the problem even more. Certain states and bigger cities are re-implementing mask mandates for certain parts of their economy. Some are only doing it for indoor dining or indoor venue. Some aspects of states are starting to shut down completely again. And all of this going on while the economy is still in 100% recovery mode. Unless you're a nurse or someone in like a healthcare capacity or someone that worked at grocery stores, a lot of the other industries in the United States haven't completely reopened, and some of them are not going to reopen again at all. They said something like 40% of small businesses, if they haven't shut their doors already, probably will disappear by the end of the year. And all of this stuff for the different news articles for the individual topics, I'll put a link to those articles in the description down below. That being said, as a prepper, I mentioned this several times, like, what are the solutions? How can we, combat what's going on? And I'm already budgeting the funds to get the chicken coop built this year instead of next year. I've looked at different designs for people using refurbished materials. It's looking like the only thing that I'll really outright purchase is chicken wire, feeders, feed, and the chickens themselves. But the main structure of the chicken coop will hopefully be able to come from refurbished supplies. So I'm looking around trying to get that stuff in order. I'm getting ready to put in some sort of lake garden, but a lot of food options have disappeared in that category. So beginning next year, going into spring, I'll definitely post more videos as I set up the garden and I plant the other trees that I want to plant. But if you are not producing any of the food that you intake, you're not gathering any of the water that you consume, those would be the first two areas that I would, put higher on your priority list. The next thing that I'd put on your priority list is some sort of power storage, and then step up to some sort of power, generation. Even if it's as simple as you spent $150 on one of those backpacking solar panels that could essentially charge your phone, your laptop, and maybe a camera or the batteries and flashlights. That is a start, and going into the holidays, it would be a very simple, cost-effective gift that you could give to someone or treat yourself with. So bottom line is, start generating what you're consuming, because every time there is a disruption in the supply chain, prices for stuff will go up. Couple that with so many job openings but not enough people to fill them, not enough people willing to go back to work, whether it's for security reasons or the fact that our government is giving them more money for them to sit at home than they were making when they were actually working 40 hours a week. For whatever reason, the simple bottom line is, if you have people extracting from the system but not providing to the system, then we will see shortages, coupled with ports being shut down, society's trying to go back to normal. As more restaurants open, they're going to want the supplies that they were consuming back. And, in the beginning of the year, there was talk of farmers having to plow over fields or just dump product because the middlemen were completely filled up and they weren't sending off that product, mostly to restaurants. The grocery stores got what they needed, and so it was, think of the economy as a freight train. It got stopped, and now it's starting to, try to chug back to life. But all of these things, individually, they wouldn't be, extremely terrible, but when you couple them all together, you can see how the situation could continue to get worse, and its path to recovery is going to be a long one. So as a prepper, bottom line, start generating what you consume, become self-sufficient. If you're not relying on the system when the system wants to falter or fail, then you should have nothing to worry about. And with that, I don't have any other news topics to talk about. in the comment section down below if you have anything, whether it's in the U.S. or around the world, some sort of news topic that you'd like me to cover, or maybe there's a story that I haven't heard about because I don't have the time to read everything that's going on all across the world, then just leave it in the comment section down below and maybe I'll make a video on it. But with that, I'll catch you in the next one, and peace.